positive sign.
And Sarah, obviously it was an absolute delight and surprise for many of the people, the crowd members who had turned out to see the royal family arrive for the service, and the significance of the appearance of King Charles. And do we know what sort of things, that conversations he had to say to some of those well-wishers as he went on that mini walkabout?
Well, I was trying to keep a close ear across it. The feed was cutting out ever so slightly, so forgive me, didn't manage to get everything. Definitely seemed to be a theme of, he was telling one lady, that one man actually, I hope you haven't got too frozen. It is quite cold here in Windsor today, so I'm not surprised that was the topic of conversation. That was definitely, he said, you're very brave to stand out here in the cold. Obviously a lot of people asking, wishing him well, hoping that he's feeling better. One man said to him, "Happy Easter, Your Majesty, just keep going strong." I'm just trying to have a look at some of the other things that were noted down. But I think basically the feeling was the King worried about other people and the fact that they'd been standing out in the cold. So yeah, a really nice moment, a really unexpected moment, I think, for all those people who queued up today, but obviously all those people that are watching television as well, because there has been a lot of concern since that diagnosis was made public, 6 or 7 weeks ago now. And although the King has been carrying out constitutional duties, he has been continuing his one-on-one meetings with the Prime Minister, he has been looking through the red boxes, he has been, doing all those constitutional things. What he hasn't been able to do is be out and about in a way that he would like to be. He enjoys going out and meeting people, he enjoys speaking to people, he enjoys that one-on-one contact, and I think this walkabout is the first time that we've seen that since that cancer diagnosis was made public. And, Lucretia, we said earlier on, didn't we, that this does not mean that it's back to normal now, that everything's fine. Of course it doesn't. It will be a managed process as he continues undergoing this cancer treatment, and he will carry out events as and when they are possible, as and when they're suitable. Although he's looking at those pictures, meeting people, shaking hands with people, in terms of risk of infection, let's not forget he's outside. The chapel itself that he was sat in is a very large, well-ventilated building. So I think it's just to give you a sense that his team will be looking at each and every appearance and thinking how that fits in with his health. And if it does fit in and he can make public appearances like this, then I'm absolutely sure that is what he would want to happen.
Sarah, he spoke ahead of the Royal Maundy service on Thursday, didn't he? And a reaffirmation of his coronation pledge to the British public.
Yeah, so Maundy Thursday. Easter is a very significant event for the royal family. Obviously, head of the Church of England, and Maundy Thursday is one of those events that happens obviously on last Thursday. And normally the King would have been there to hand out the Maundy money. This is to a group of men and women who have been considered to have done their bit, and so they receive what's called Maundy money. But the Queen had to take his place and hand out that money instead. But as you say, the King did record an audio message, and as you say there, he reiterated the coronation service pledge, the pledge not to be served, but to serve. And he said, that I have always tried to do and continue to do with my whole heart. And I think very much a sense there that, as much as he can, he wants to get back to work, to put it bluntly, but he will be dictated by his medical team as and when it's possible for him to do so. But we have to say that today, here at the Easter Sunday service in Windsor, with the walk into the chapel, taking part in the service, and then that walkabout on the way out, that is a positive sign as to where the King's health is at the moment.
Okay, Sarah Campbell, thank you very much. Yeah, you can still see some of the well-wishers there behind you, smiling and talking, despite the fact that the congregation and the service have now moved on. But you just get the sense that people are happy by the fact that King Charles had come out today. Thank you, Sarah. Well, let's take you to Rome now. Tens of thousands of worshippers gathered in St. Peter's Square to hear Pope Francis lead Easter Sunday Mass and give the traditional Urbi et Orbi blessing. There had been concern about the 87-year-old's health after he pulled out of a ceremony on Good Friday. In his address, he repeated his calls for a ceasefire in Gaza and the release of all hostages. Here's some of the Pope's address.
Dear brothers and sisters, happy Easter. Today, throughout the world, there resounds the message proclaimed 2,000 years from Jerusalem. Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified, been risen. The Church relieves the amazement of the women who went to the tomb at dawn on the first day of the week. The tomb of Jesus had been sealed with a great stone. Today too, great stones, heavy stones, block the hopes of humanity. The stone of war, the stone of humanitarian crisis, the stone of human rights violations, the stone of human trafficking, and other stones as well.
Pope Francis there giving the Urbi et Orbi blessing. Our religion editor, Lee Bull, has been looking through and following the Pope's addresses through Easter.
Well, he's talked a great deal already about conflict, and there was special focus on Gaza and special focus particularly on children there. He said, first of all, that he wanted immediate access to humanitarian aid for all those in Gaza, but also called for the prompt release of hostages, but for an immediate ceasefire as well. When he was talking about children, though, he was talking about looking at the conflict through their eyes, talking about the suffering they've seen, how they would be asking about why there was so much death. And he said, in very stark terms, war is always an absurdity and in itself a defeat. He's always through the conflict been very strong on the conflict in Gaza. He did mention other conflicts around the world. He talked about Ukraine and the hope for an exchange of prisoners, but talked also about Sudan and elsewhere, but very strong, as I say, as he brings his message and blessing to an end here in Vatican City in front of around 50,000 people, very strong in his words about the conflict in Gaza.
OK. I wonder if I could just squeeze in one more question whilst I've got you, Aline. The Catholic Church, how is it faring with Pope Francis? Yes, his health hasn't been best, but any particular challenges worthy of note?
Well, his papacy has, I suppose, been characterised by some sense that some conservatives, some traditionalists feel that Pope Francis is moving away from traditional teaching. He actually, in material terms, not a massive amount has changed, but certainly in terms of the rhetoric and the tone on certain things, like, for example, the role of women in the church, perhaps same-sex blessings, he is taking things forward a touch.
That was Lee Bull speaking to me earlier. OK, let's turn our attention to Gaza now and the events there. Talks on a possible new ceasefire and hostage release deal are expected to resume in Cairo. We're not too sure when, but they are on the agenda for today. That's according to Egyptian media. Israel is sending a delegation of security and intelligence officials to what's been described as indirect talks. It comes as the families of Israeli hostages held by Hamas in the Gaza Strip step up the pressure on the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to secure their release. This was the scene in Tel Aviv on Saturday night as relatives of the hostages joined with anti-government protesters, bringing tens of thousands of people onto the streets. BBC Arabic's Abdelbassir Hassan has the latest from Cairo.
So far, if I'm going to speak about what's going in Cairo already, the preliminary talks have already started in Cairo with a delegation from Israel, mediators from the United States, Qatar and Egypt are already meeting at present. Hamas is not yet represented until now, but a source close to the meeting told BBC that they are going to join soon. We have talked to Hamas. They said they haven't received an invitation to attend this round of talks, which is going on in Cairo. The latest situations or positions from the sides, Hamas has already announced that it just wanted Israel to withdraw from the territories it has already entered after October 7th. They would like the Israeli troops to withdraw from northern Gaza to allow those who left their homes to go back to northern Gaza and to allow the food and humanitarian aid across the strip. They would like to have a full or complete ceasefire. On the other side, Israel is known to have been sticking to one position, which is a continued battle or a continued campaign against Hamas. They wouldn't stop the war. They can negotiate a truce, which could be like weeks in exchange for prisoners from both sides. But so far, could be what's described as a deadlock. What's expected in Cairo, you can't predict what's going on because we don't know whether they are going to discuss a 6-week truce or, according to the latest UN resolution, the rest of Ramadan, which is a 10 days only truce until the end of Ramadan, which is going to end in 10 days from now.
And that was Abdelbassir Hassan there, who gave us the latest from Cairo earlier.